Okay, welcome guys. Welcome to my show. I'm actually in Mesquite, Texas. It's close to Dallas downtown. And I'm here, as you can see in the background, I'm at a gun show. So it's actually my very first gun show. You see outside the parking space is packed with people, with cars. And inside you can get like all kind of guns, like assault rifles. You can get like sniper guns, and it's really crazy. Like I'm actually not allowed to film inside, but I can turn just very quick. And yeah, I'm gonna conduct some interviews outside to see what the people gonna say about guns here. Okay, we got two girls here and we want to talk about guns. So Kiyomi, tell me, why do you need a gun?
I like guns just for protection purposes, and then I like the way they feel when I shoot them.
Okay. Why do you need guns?
Same, protection, and I do appreciate the feeling, the reverb when you actually shoot the gun, but mainly protection.
Okay. Have you girls ever been in a situation where you used a gun?
No, I do carry it with me when I'm at work, like when I'm walking to my car from my building.
Okay.
That's it.
What about you?
I'm ex-military, so
okay.
I have in the U.S. Navy, but never in a combat situation, but mainly training.
So what would you answer people who say, guns are dangerous, like we have to take away the guns from the people?
I think that's glib and slightly foolish. In a world where no guns exist, that would be great, but understanding people and that people with bad intentions own guns, I feel I should equalize that and own a gun as well.
What would you say, like how many girls are here on this gun show? Like in percent, like 50% or 20%?
I would say maybe coming by themselves, probably like 10%. Coming with like their spouse or something, maybe 30%.
Okay. So do you think girls are more biased when it comes to guns?
What do you mean by bias?
That they say, like guns, like they are loud and they are not pink, they are like, they don't feel good and like. Yeah.
No, I think guys would be, I don't know, just more willing with guns. I think women, they prefer to talk things out, but I think that would be the only bias reasons.
Like in Germany, people always say, look at America, there's so many shootings going on. So what would you answer people who come up with things like this?
Everybody doesn't deserve to have a gun, but just because you take a test and you seem sane, I don't know, that's not a good reason as well.
What would you answer?
To which question?
To people when they say, look at America, there's shooting going on all the time. Like, do you want like situations like in America where everybody shoots themselves?
I would. That to me, that's rooted in ignorance and just not understanding that that's not everybody. That the media, they have a motive as well. So there's always spin. So things you see with the shootings and mass shootings, you always have to take that with a grain of salt and keep perspective. Not everybody that owns a gun has bad intentions. Some people say, for me, it's just as a black lesbian woman, I want to protect myself. I'm a target. So it's nice to be able to equalize that and protect myself.
Okay. Like, as you said, you've been a soldier before. Do you think the military would be as big as we see it today when people would have guns? Like, I think like people would say, okay, why should we pay like tons of dollars just for the military when we just can buy like an AK-47 just for $1,000?
Well, so there's two things to that. The military is as big as it is because that's by design. There's an entire military industrial complex that needs to be fed. So, of course, we're told that guns are necessary and we need these certain bombs and all of that. But that feeds a purpose, which is money. Follow the money trail. A lot of this stuff can be solved without guns, but the fact that we do have guns is kind of, I just want to be protected. I don't really care about the agendas of everybody else. I'm aware of those. At the end of the day, I just want me and mine to be okay. That's the reason that I own guns.
What would you answer to people who say, look, like when guns are allowed, like when people get into bar fights or when they get into an accident, they get mad and then they just pull the guns. What would you say to people who come up with concerns like this?
I would say I've learned a lot of education about guns by taking an actual gun course and getting my concealed license. So at first, with my temper, I would originally have just pulled out a gun and just ready to shoot up everybody. But when learning about guns and learning when you're supposed to take out guns and when you're supposed to use them, it's, broadened my perspective on when and when you should not pull out your gun.
And I think, of course, you said some people got a temper and for them it's very easy to pull the gun. But I think, you're very stupid when you pull your gun, because when you pull your gun, you risk to get shot first, right?
Right. That definitely gives them ammo to be like, oh, they have a gun, let me shoot them first.
Okay. How many times you go to a shooting range to practice?
I've been twice in my life.
Okay.
That's it.
What about you? Of course, you've been a soldier, but how many times do you practice now?
Now I haven't. I dry fire practice, so even if I'm not at the range shooting live ammo, I still practice trigger control and practice at least once a week. So I'll say once a week.
So you just practice at home in your backyard, or?
Yes, with an unloaded with cap rounds and yes.
Okay, very interesting. Thank you very much, girls. It was very interesting to talk to you.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe, why do you need a gun?
I have a gun for my own protection, but I also have guns because I'm a sportsman. I shoot sporting clays, which is clay targets. Nothing gets killed. Yeah. We enjoy the camaraderie. We also enjoy being proficient, to be good at something. And if you ever need to use it for your own protection, you can practice that. We have clubs that to get together to shoot, and we shoot at targets. We don't shoot at anything that's live. Okay. So we're. I'm not a hunter, but I shoot sporting clays, which are, clay pigeons, and But I enjoy the shooting the guns. It's something you can be accurate.
What would you answer a person who would say, when you have many guns around, people are gonna use it and gonna kill each other? Like, what would you answer to a person who come up with a concern like this?
Well, for our own protection, for the protection of my family, I would rather have the gun in the hands of somebody who's capable of using it, who has been trained. I have a license that is there, and it's the person that you don't suspect that has a gun that stops somebody who comes in to do a terrible act. So if everybody is unprotected, they're at the mercy of the people who have the guns that want to do harm. So if the responsible people have a gun and they see something there, other people say, well, call the police. They're there in 25 minutes. Everybody, the event has already happened.
But isn't it very unlikely that, a criminal gonna attack you or somebody will break into your house? Isn't it very unlikely?
Well, I was robbed in my own front yard. Okay. With a young man with a gun, and I talked him out of shooting us. I talked him. He said, "Go down and lay down next to the car," and I said I wouldn't do it. So I kept talking long enough that he was thinking, I'm going to get caught if I stay here. So he had the gun, I didn't. So after that, I said, I'm not going to be the one without the gun. Okay.
So that was the incident after you said, okay, now I need a gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think criminals, they would think twice before robbing someone? When they know the person will have a gun?
Yes.
Like people say, there's always this example, like at 11 p.m. you fuel up your car, and then people used to rob here, and now they don't do it that often because people may have guns. But isn't there a big risk that the person shoots at first, just kill the person, then drives away with the car?
There's always that possibility, but there's a more possibility that if somebody tries to steal my property or tries to harm my wife or my family, if I have a personal gun that's with me, I know that I'm the deterrent at that point, rather than asking somebody to arrive 15, 20 minutes later. The protection has to be there then. So that's why I have it.
What do you think about automatic and semi-automatic rifle, like assault rifles?
Well, the military needs to use what the military needs to use. People like myself who shoot for sport, there's no real reason for automatic weapons, and we can't own automatic weapons. Now you can shoot semi-automatic weapons, which is as fast as you pull the trigger. But as far as fully automatic weapons, that's an illegal thing, and nobody needs that for their self-protection.
Okay, Joe. Thank you very much for the interview. Okay, Marley. Why do you need a gun?
Why do I need a gun? For protection of me and my family.
Okay. Don't you think it's dangerous when you have a gun?
I've been shooting guns since I was 6, and I haven't had any incidents. Guns aren't what's dangerous. Guns in the wrong hands of the wrong people is what's dangerous.
Okay. So, do you think there's there are correlations between a high gun density and homicide rates?
People find a way to make things possible with or without guns. So I don't think guns make a big difference in that statistic.
Okay. So what do you think, people in Germany, they always say, look to America. They always like shootings around. They always like shooting in schools and campuses and supermarkets. Like, you want situations in America. What would you answer people in Germany for this question?
To look a little deeper into the situation. It may not be as transparent as it seems on the surface. A lot of times those things are false actions to build up to something else, to control gun laws or all type of other things. So I mean, when you're looking at stuff on that scale, it's kind of, you can't really use those things, because if you look to other countries where guns are not allowed, you still have several violent crimes that does not involve weapons and people still die. So with or without guns, you got danger. So guns not going to make anything any worse.
Okay. Like we just saw the last president elections, Hillary said, I'm going to take away your guns. So what do you think Hillary would have taken away the guns from the people in Texas?
Probably not. Probably try it, but probably not.
You would try?
Yeah, try.
Okay. So people here in Texas, many people, they say, oh yeah, when people when they get in bar fights, like when they're drunk, and then when they get in fights, they just go to the car and pull the guns. What do you answer people who have worries like this?
I mean, it just, every person is different. I mean, yeah, that's possible. That's a possibility anywhere. You can be driving down the street and cut the wrong person off. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in a bar fight or the situation. It's variables to everything.
Okay. So, what gun have you bought today, and how many guns you got?
I got a few guns, and I just bought a 22 today. 22, okay. Right?
Can you please show it to me? Okay, that's what kind of gun is it?
It's a 22 long rifle.
And you're gonna go to shooting ranges and shoot with this gun?
Shoot range, target practice. Yep.
Okay. But it's just a semi-automatic one, right?
Yeah, semi-automatic. Nothing fully.
Okay. Thank you very much for the interview.
You're welcome.
Do you own guns?
More than a few.
More than a few. So why do you need guns? Do you think isn't it dangerous to own guns?
It's dangerous not to be trained in the use of guns.
Okay.
And own them. It's actually irresponsible and stupid. Proper training and proper education, guns are perfectly safe. Guns haven't changed since the 1700s.
Okay.
And in this culture in America, and pretty much for the most of the world, things were fine. And then the 60s came along.
Okay.
And, well, things became unfine. Things became different.
Why in the 60s? Was it like the Woodstock generation, like the socialist ideas?
I can't blame it on any political structure or generation. I'd say that it was just a paradigm shift in cultural values.
Okay.
And it's not any one group. I would definitely say the political assassinations of the early 60s had a lot to do with it, because that's when there was a major shift in federal firearms management and perception of what guns are for and how they should be used.
But all the association they were done with illegal guns and by terrorists. They were not like licensed guns.
No, I didn't understand you. Say again?
Like all the, like, as Kennedy were killed and all this assassination.
When Robert Kennedy or when John Fitzgerald Kennedy was killed, in theory, according to the Warren Commission, it was done with a mail-order rifle.
Okay.
And that's why there was a ban on mail-order rifles.
Okay.
Then you had the subsequent deaths of Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. And, you know, this made it much easier to pass these firearms control acts. Whether or not this was done out of a knee-jerk reaction to, or it was a legitimate issue, that's not mine to argue. However, I'd like to point out that people have been killing each other and assassinating each other long before there were guns.
Okay. So you think when
Thomas Becket, how he was killed.
Okay. Like in Germany, like America, they have their reputation like, oh, the Americans, they are like crazy about guns. You look over to the America, they're like massacres and gun deaths all the time. What would you answer people telling stuff like this?
Well, you know, Michael Moore took a long look at the proliferation of firearms, and he noticed that Canada per capita has almost as many guns as the United States, but they don't seem to have our mass shooting issue. Mass shootings, which, by the way, account for a very small, minute amount of gun deaths. Most gun-related homicides are done with handguns in the commission of a felony. They're not done with black guns, with AR-15s, and they're not done in school shootings. And he noticed that the Canadians didn't have the same phenomenon that we have with gun violence. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the crime rate in Canada as far as drug usage and drug dealing is a lot lower, and that the SSRI prescription per capita is a lot lower. They're not filling people full of
what's SRI?
Serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Okay.
You know, I noticed that when they introduced SSRIs into this society, that's when you saw the first instances of going postal and the massacre at the McDonald's back in the early 80s. And if you look, the per capita growth rate, SSI prescription rate, I know this isn't definitive proof, but in my book, it's definitely something to take in consideration of. The mass shooting rate goes up concurrently. Now, again, I'll go back to Michael Moore, a bastion of the left. Pointed out, he said, after we did the study with Columbine, our Columbine movie, he goes, we couldn't figure it out. We couldn't put our finger on it. What's causing this violence? And he goes, and then I read the Eli Lilly interdepartmental memo about their antidepressants causing depression and suicidal thoughts. Yeah. He goes, I think we need to take a good hard look at SSRIs. Now, that's not going to happen in this country, and we both know why. Pharmaceutical companies have too much to lose. They're multi-billion-dollar corporations that generate massive amounts of revenue from overprescribing Americans.
And of course, like when you take away the guns from the people, they cannot defend themselves. Like a totalitarian government can take over, and then when you can speak up, like they can detain you.
That's definitely a consideration. You know, the Second Amendment is the teeth of the Bill of Rights. It's the one that protects the other ones. It's not a primary concern. Your primary concern, I'm not afraid of the government. If the government wants me, the government's going to come get me. I'm afraid of the next door neighbor who's lost his shit, or a father whose kids are starving and he's desperate to do anything because he hasn't worked in 5 years. If you look at the kind of crime that I'm talking about in states where they ban guns or make them incredibly hard to obtain, then you look at the crime here in Texas, you're going to notice that there's a lot less crime here of those types of those nature of crime than there is per capita in other states or cities like Chicago or the Bronx or Syracuse, which is a sanctuary city and has turned into a giant drug dealing war zone. You know, generally where guns tend to be restricted the most is where you find the most crime. Most of our problems in this country go back to the fact that the financial institutions since the 80s have decided that the best way to generate capital for themselves is to destroy the manufacturing base in this country, ship labor abroad, pocket the difference, and destroy our industry here. The blue collar and middle class is ceasing to exist. And because of that, a large minority of the population is desperate and willing to do anything to feed themselves. Give people jobs, and you'll notice a lot of problems go away.
And yeah, that's what I realized here in Texas or in the USA in general. Like you see so many homeless people, you see so many people on the street, and of course they struggle a lot. And then for them, like the opportunity costs are very, very low to become a criminal. And then of course when you take away the guns from the people, then you make the work for these people much more easy.
The inner city environment has developed into a cesspool. This is a direct effect from the destruction of the Glass-Steagall Act and a direct effect from the destruction of the manufacturing base in this country. The black community was integrating into this country after their struggles in the 50s and early 60s, and they were integrating into the culture. There was a strong sense of unified purpose because there was a strong sense of dignity and an ability to provide for their families, and they were starting to see their kids going to college at a very, very high successful rate. That was all taken away in the 80s, and it's never been given back, and it never will be given back because the obvious, blatant, stated by themselves goal is globalization of the economies. This is not good. It's not working out well for Europe, now is it? That whole euro was a real bad idea. I'm watching Greece and trying to maintain its Greece shipping fleet, and to be blunt, Germany trying to steal it. I'm watching Italy acting like Italy always does, and I'm watching all of Europe fall apart while the Syrian refugee storm comes flooding in because of the U.S. and Russia. So what do I think politically of the right to bear arms? I think that the right to defend yourself is a God-given right. It's not a man-given right. However, with rights do come responsibilities, and proper education and use of firearms, of course, is necessary. Also, should there be tougher gun laws? No, we have them. They don't work. There should be a tougher stance in the society within itself, among its own citizens, to take responsibility as to who owns a gun and what they're doing with it.
Like we saw the American presidential election, like Hillary said, if you elect me, we're going to take away the guns from the people. So what do you think what would have happened if Hillary would have been elected?
I think that there was a good chance she would have reinstated the assault weapons ban, which was a frivolous piece of legislation that did absolutely nothing for the reduction of gun crime in this country. And I think that she would have highly politicized it like they've always done, pretty much since the Federal Firearms Act in the 60s. I also think that the two-party system in this country is broken, and that both candidates are a joke. I don't think Trump planned on winning. I think he did it as a favor for his friends, the Clintons. Because I'm pretty sure that
politics all about.
I'm pretty sure he was financially or legislatively supported throughout his growth in the late 80s and the early 90s when I lived in New York, watching him develop his empire and watching the Clintons pass sweetheart deals to help him take care of things like Trump Plaza and Atlantic City and all the other developments that he did in New York. I'm a New Yorker, all right? And then lo and behold, all of a sudden he's running against Clinton. Well, then there was a couple of screaming, horrible scandals that should have buried his campaign, but it didn't. And why didn't? I'll tell you why it didn't. It goes back to what I was telling you before. People are starving for real work in this country. We had a long tradition, before you were alive, of a man being able to go out with one income and be able to provide for a family of three. We had a very strong industrial base in this country for 50 years.
And that's actually what I talk about on my channel. I talk about like economic freedom, because like even you see it in the US, like the state is getting bigger and bigger. They spend so much money on welfare, they spend so much money on the military, and then of course the economy goes down. And then of course jobs go abroad, but then the jobs are shifting. Like you see it in Europe, like the blue collar jobs, they go abroad, but then like people. Maybe they become YouTube stars, or they become programmers, or like it's always shifting. Like
the drunks are at the wheel. Yeah. The drunks are represented by 1% of the population, and 1/10 of the population decides what 1% rules. Okay, the golden rule is he who has the money makes the rules. That doesn't mean they're right or smart about it. Often sociopathy is attracted to power, and the present socioeconomic conditions we've had since the late Middle Ages has been geared towards the concept of the mercantile class amassing power and wealth. And we are looking at the end game. Now, whether or not we transition successfully and evolve, I don't know. I don't have a magic, genie lamp. Whether or not this comes as EMP or whatever other wet dream somebody's got about the collapse of a society.
EMP? What's EMP?
Electromagnetic pulse, coronal mass ejections, economic collapse, zombies, whatever you want to portray. I don't think that most of the people that indulge in those fantasies just understand how horrible it would be and how bad it's going to be. Europe's getting a taste of it with Syria and the refugees. Okay. You got a small taste of it, and you got a huge taste of it. Europe did twice. War is basically social economic collapse, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah. So you heard about the terror attack in Nice. What would you think? How would a terror attack with a truck would look like in Texas?
Depends on where in Texas. I'm not going to state locations, but there's some cities in Texas where they'd probably get away with it very successfully. But most of the places in Texas, you wouldn't want to do that.
I think like if it would be Texas, like this guy would be stopped very soon. Like he killed like I think 180 people, and then he got shot by a policeman.
There's been a number of terrorist attacks attempted in Texas, and a couple of them have succeeded, usually on the Army bases, because Army bases you are not allowed to carry weapons on an Army base.
No.
But there was one attack stopped by a police officer and a citizen assisting that I can think of at least once. Part of me wants to say there was another instance where it was in the mall and the perpetrator was taken down by a civilian. And this happens a lot more than the media covers because it's not sexy. You know, it's not politically palatable. It's not going to push an agenda. So, you know, an armed citizenry, yeah, it's important. If it wasn't important, Switzerland wouldn't make sure everybody had guns.
A bad guy with a gun just can be stopped by a good guy with a gun.
I'll give you an example. Now, this is entirely out of the realm of crime. I carry a .454 Casull. It's a very heavy round. It's a very heavy caliber.
Can you show your gun?
Sure. Now, this weapon is designed to take out grizzly. And the primary reason that I have this weapon is I do a lot of fly fishing. When you're standing in the bear's refrigerator, stealing his food with a fly rod, you better have more than a fly rod to defend yourself.
Yeah.
This pistol was specifically designed to take out grizzlies.
Okay.
Like you just said, a bad guy with a gun. Well, an angry bear, I sure don't want to have a fly rod. It's kind of a metaphor, but it's the same idea. Of course, a armed and trained citizenry is going to be able to respond properly to a horrible situation. And if people, you know, they relish our freedoms here, they relish our independence, but at the same time we are I don't know, how do you say this? We are considered. It's amazing how the right and the center are perceived as ignorant and racist and stupid in the media and by the left. I don't know. I don't agree with it.
So, do you always carry your gun openly, like open carry?
No, just generally I work at home, so generally no, I don't carry my pistol with me everywhere I go.
I was wondering, I'm here in Texas since like 4 or 5 days. I expected gun shops everywhere. I expected people like open carry their guns, but it wasn't like this.
Most people don't open carry simply because they don't want the bad guy to know they have a gun, because they'll be the first target, first of all. Second of all, the main real reason we're very happy about open carry here is part of concealed carry was called imprinting. If your gun imprinted and you could see it through a shirt, you were in violation of your concealed carry permit, and they would take it away and you'd get in trouble. So it was a big problem. It was a big issue. You'd see a lot of loose-fitting shirts. This helped expedite that. Now if you have a concealed carry permit, you can open carry if you choose, which basically means if you're printing, it doesn't matter. The reason you don't see a lot of guys running around with guns is because they don't want you to.
Okay. Like when I go to a Walmart here, like, and when there are maybe like 100 customers, how much would you think would have a gun with them?
A couple.
A couple?
Sure.
Just 2 from 100?
There's only a couple 100,000 concealed carry permit holders in the state of Texas.
Okay. I expected more.
Well, we don't really need them. We just can't bring them in public when we do that. Most people will keep a firearm in their vehicle, secured in their vehicle, so that when they're traveling, if there's a situation, they can defend themselves. Okay. And then, definitely good luck if you break into a home in Texas.
But people still do it. Like my host in Austin, he told me like he had it in Austin. Yeah. Of course, in Austin. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, remember that city I was talking about? I wasn't going to mention. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Okay. You think people like here in Dallas, people don't break into houses?
Oh, it happens, but a lot of times you're going to hear about where it's not a good thing to be a bad guy that day.
Okay. So I read here, Plano here in Texas, here close to Dallas, they have the lowest homicide rate. And I also read like they have a very high income, like many rich people, many big companies are there. Do you think the low homicide rate is because they have like very little criminals, very little poor people, or do you?
I think that poverty and crime are interlinked. That's proven. That's a given. Yeah. You want to cure the world's woes? It's real simple. Give people dignity. You want to give people dignity? All you got to do is give them a meaningful employment so they can take care of themselves and their families. You would do horrible, amazing things. You would do horrible, amazing things if you watched your kids starve for 13 days.
Yeah, of course. And that's why I promote economic freedom, because when you have economic freedom...
This has nothing to do with guns.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's a byproduct. It's a distraction.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you can't see that, you people are blind.
Yeah.
This is not about who's in office.
Yeah.
This is not about my right to keep and bear an arm.
Yeah.
This is about keeping you people serfdom. Sure, you'll be fat and happy. There'll be distractions. You get your rewards if you play the game. But at the expense of an awful lot of people. All over the world. Everywhere. You know this.
Yeah.
Anybody that's sat on this planet for more than 30 years has got an inkling.
And that's it. Like, because people suffer, they become criminals. Because for them it's easier to be criminal than...
Sometimes it's not a matter of if it's easy or not. It's the only thing to do.
Yeah.
Have you ever been homeless?
No.
I have.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've lived at a rescue mission. I'm successful now. I own a small business. I've got my own home.
But you haven't been a criminal.
I'm not going to answer that.
Okay.
No, I haven't. I haven't been a criminal.
Okay.
But that was a conscious choice, and it was a very hard one to make, but not too hard because I didn't have kids
Okay.
that relied on me. All right. Just because, I was smart enough to make the right choice doesn't mean everybody is. And sometimes people don't realize there is a choice because it's not apparent. It's not apparent that there's a choice. They think, oh shit, if I don't hurry up and make a couple $100, they're going to turn the heat off on mama. And then you got the other end of the spectrum. The criminalization of narcotics in this country immediately guarantees a criminal class. We've known this since Prohibition. And yet we continue to make drugs Schedule 1. Legalize everything, provide treatment, follow the Amsterdam model. You're going to reduce an awful lot of crime that's based on drug trade. But no, we don't want to do that because we want to make sure that there's an easy way to fund the Central Intelligence Agency's black budgets and other departments like them. In case anybody forgot, they should need to Google Ollie North. That shit's still going on. Take a good hard look at what's going on in Afghanistan. Take a good hard look at what was going on in Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador. Take a good hard look at what was going on in Vietnam. You know what you're going to find in every area? Poppies and cocaine. Yeah, that's where a lot of problems are.